I was born Christopher William Cochran. Originally from Glace Bay, Nova Scotia. Born and raised until I was 18, until I ran away from there. Believe me, it's not a place you want to grow up. People know me now as Elle Noir. That's mainly because of my stage name, my drag name, that I've been carrying for almost 10 years, of my 10-year anniversary this July coming up. People think that because I'm a drag queen and I'm a transgender woman, they don't really see the difference between. They think that I just put on some more makeup and that's who I am, but it's so much more, believe me. Back in 2003 is when I joined the Navy. I left Cape Breton. It was either join the Navy or be in debt from student loans, and I was already in Sea Cadets for years. So it was just a natural transition for me to go into the Navy. And I was like, why not, join the Navy, see the world, maybe I'll love it. I didn't love it. And that's when I started to really think that there was more to me than just being a gay person. I already came out a few years ago to my parents and everything else like that. Again, when I went into basic training, I had to kind of go back into my shell because, you're surrounded by a bunch of manly men. When I came out of basic training, though, the doors flew off. There was no hiding it anymore. It was just who I was. After a year of doing drag, I started to realize I was more comfortable in the drag form than I was in my normal male form. So I was like, something's going on. But I moved to Toronto and I started seeing women up there that were transgender, that were, still performing. And I was like, wow, you can actually do this? And I started to think of myself, well, maybe this is who I am, I've always considered myself more feminine than masculine. In 2009, I finally told my family, and in Easter of 2009, I started transitioning. Now, transitioning is not as clear-cut as, putting some eye makeup on, walking out the door. You have to go through a therapy process to make sure that you're, capable and mentally and able to do the transition. So you have to dress as a woman fully before you get a letter that goes to an endocrinologist, who's like the hormone specialist. You're changing. You're basically you're going straight back to puberty and changing yourself all over again. And for the first 2 years, if anybody ever looked at me, I was always thinking, oh my God, do they know? Do they know? Do they know? And then I quickly realized maybe they don't know, they're just looking at me because I look good. There's a few times where I get the people kind of look, doing the double take, or they do the squinting at me, which is kind of weird because just because you're squinting at somebody doesn't mean they're going to switch genders all of a sudden. My grandmother, she disowned me. I was a golden boy when I was in the Navy. I was a perfect child, great marks. I was everything. When I started to become the woman, no one really wanted to talk to me on that side of my family. My biological father kind of disowned me, kind of put on Facebook that his son died today, and that was it. The good thing about who I am is I can't really speak on other people, but for me, because I've been out in the public for so long, that it's a little bit more accepting for people, for me. So I've kind of been a voice of, okay, maybe there is transgender people that can be drag queens, It wasn't too far in the distance where homosexuality was considered a psychological problem where they sent people to institutions to deal with it, You went to camp to straighten you up and stuff. And, and if it was so easy for us to just, to be straight, as you say, who wants to put themselves through that much ridicule and that much, pain and suffering, right? People want to put everything in a box and say, just so they're comfortable with it, you're gay, you're straight, you're bisexual. It has nothing to do with your sexuality, who you're attracted to. Who you're attracted to before you start transitioning is who you're going to be attracted to after you're finished transitioning. I think there needs to be kind of like a group for people that are dating transgender women or being with or married to, or even families that are with transgender women, just so they can understand. They started doing talks in schools and stuff like that, and I think they should have talks with more, before the school year starts, have a talk with the teachers, with the principals, with educators, just so they can, identify the differences and stuff like that, because transgender women and men or boys and girls are coming out a lot sooner. And the biggest question is when did you know you were gay? And I asked them the same question, when did you know you were straight? I didn't just wake up one morning and go, you know what, I think I'm gonna sleep with men now. And I didn't just wake up one morning and go, you know what, I think I would rather have boobs than pecs. It doesn't just work, doesn't just click like that, It's a process. You have to go through it, Hi, my name is Chris Cochran. I was born Christopher William Cochran. Most people know me as Elle Noir, my drag name. I consider myself a Chinese native, African-Acadian, transgendered, ex-Navy, Cape Breton woman. More diverse than you can ever get to. This is who I am. This is who I consider myself to be. And I just want you to know that there's a difference between drag and there's a difference between transgender women, but who I am is who I am. So you can either love me, hate me, or be with me.